My grandfather had the last slave in America. And it was a black guy who walked out of Chicago hungry, out of work, looking for work. And my grandfather told me, I don't think I can get you paid in terms of money, because shit, I ain't got any of that myself. But I might be able to get you paid in, in other stuff that you might be willing to accept. So he took him down to the black brothel down in West Chicago. And he cut a deal with the madam down there so that the increased food production would end up into the kitchen of the brothel there. And if they didn't need it, they were responsible for making sure it made it to some black kid's belly in the community, because a black guy helped get it in the game. So if he helped my grandfather be more productive, some of the food was his to trade. And he got his tobacco, his liquor, and his more intimate needs taken care of down there at the brothel. So this guy worked for my grandfather until my dad was old enough to help on the farm. And I think it was like 15 years. And my grandfather never paid him a nickel. He got his cash for, everything, for down there at the brothel. So, but when he was setting up the deal, and the madam agreed to it, said my grandfather said he hadn't done a little inspection of the troops yet. He says, I don't know, you might have all, fat ugly girls here, and he might not want to come by here. He said, we got to see what you got for inventory. So they went in, and she clapped her hands, had them all lined up, and my grandfather did an inspection of the troops, and it's like, he told the black guy, he said, this looks pretty good to me. It's like, the black guy said it looked like heaven to him. So she had all the good stuff locked down there. And he worked for 15 years there, had about $15 in his pocket when he walked away from the farm, and the biggest goddamn smile on his face that you could possibly imagine. And that's what my grandfather said. He was proud of the fact that he never paid this guy a nickel. He says, I got more sweat out of that black ass than Roosevelt ever would have, but I got him laid a lot more. So this is, the hookers were actually the safety net. And, you're either buying it out there or you're renting it. If you show up at the altar and you say, I'm taking this home, I'm going to keep it, and I'm not going to be with another gal the rest of my life, and I'm never going to see my paycheck again, that's buying it, guys. There's renting it and there's buying it. And the more the women get in control of the money, the better off the kids are. It's the motivation, the hustle factor theory my grandfather had was that before the Depression, the demand for, cute, naughty girls, where you could rent it from them was high. During the Depression, the demand was high. After the Depression, the demand was high, but the clerics screwed things up, And the economists called this an inelastic demand curve. But during the Depression, my grandfather called the critical commodity price in the economy the price of a decent piece of ass on Saturday night. During the Depression, he thought the hustle factor in the economy maximized when the critical commodity price in the economy dropped to 1 day's wage. He saw more hustle out of the rednecks when they could rent it from the cute, naughty girls. There was a lot of no-fault divorce that everybody blamed the fat, lazy bankers for, because they couldn't get jobs, they couldn't get work when they were married to a nice gal, didn't want to leave, but the guy had to kiss her and pat her on the ass and go do what you got to do to keep the kids fed. And he'd head off to try and find a job in a different county or a different state. A lot of no-fault divorce, but the bankers, got the blame for it. So not having a organic grain certificate, where the money is backed up by organic grain. The gold standard created a lot of panics and banking crises in between the depressions. The long depression, which was a railroad speculation depression, I think, to the Great Depression, which wasn't the greatest, depression as far as negative growth. The long depression was actually the worst time in American economic history. It had the longest negative growth rate. So the hookers not paying taxes, that's income tax evasion, But the cute girls that are renting it out there, if you pay the taxes fair and you tithe the love energy to God, and maybe 10% up, 10% to the dragon, which is all the little life forms that make up, that allow higher life to exist on the planet. If you tie 10% of the love energy up and 10% of it down, right, the magnetic fields might strengthen. So I don't know. I mean, we have to get more love energy into the economy and less hate energy. Okay. So this is okay. This is the PG-16 kind of economic theory that you can't let the clerics knock out the motivation in the economy, the hustle factor in the economy. You can't let the clerics screw things up worse.